Hi, welcome to another Revenue Hub video series. Following the success of our AI series in the summer, please do check it out if you haven't seen them yet, we decided it would be great to get our expert partners' views once more. In the spirit of this time of year, we've asked them to predict what 2026 might have in store for the hotel industry. Now, through these videos, we are not inundating you with please subscribe and please like requests. You guys know what to do. But we would be interested to hear your thoughts on the predictions. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your predictions? Anyway, hope you enjoy it. And thanks again to our expert partners for taking part. Let's see what their predictions are. Hey, welcome to our 2026 Crystal Ball Predictions video series. Thank you for joining us today. I know it's a very busy time, so I do appreciate it. How are things with you? You well?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me here. Yes, things are well.
Good.
Sorry, I've got a little bit size of the camera. I have a bit of a football injury here, so it's my, my left side is my better side.
We're going to
so
look at your better side.
not to scare people, It's
that's a great way to start this conversation. Brilliant. Well, look, as I say, I'm conscious it's a very busy time for everybody, so we'll dive straight into it. You got 3 predictions for us. Let's get into prediction number 1 and see what you think might be happening next year. And the caveat is no one knows. It's a serious bit, but a bit of fun. So, and we'll get you back at the end of 2026 and hold you to account.
all right. So I'm going to take a little bit different spin on this.
Yeah, go for it.
I think 2026 will be more than ever all about profit. And I mean, we as a hotel and hotels in general will be talking more about NOI than they're talking about RevPAR or TrevPAR or TrevPO for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that, right? I mean, whatever kind of market analysis research you would look at, we always see kind of the same nowadays, right? There's a stable growth of occupancy. Some markets have stable growth of ADR, some markets have fast growth of ADR, so has spikes because of the events, concert, Champions League finals. But essentially, the main point is we're looking at stable growth, right?
Yeah.
Of our occupancy, RevPAR, and whatnot. Now, what everybody else is also mentioning is that stable growth of revenue is not as fast as rapidly growing cost of operating hospitality business, right?
Yeah,
so the margins are getting really, really narrow nowadays, right? And mm-hmm. I think more and more, and I look at my previous company, we've been like using NOI as an indicator of our performance more and more, with more and more departments, more and more layers,
just to jump in there, you're saying NOI, for those that may not, I mean, people should be familiar with that term, but
profit. So essentially it's the profit, bottom line, right? We're not talking about our gross operating profits or GOP. We're looking already at investors' return, at owners' return, at operators' return. And why is it important? It's because that is what essentially matters, right?
Absolutely. We saw that coming out the pandemic, isn't it? It's like RevPAR fine, ADR fine, but if you got no profit, you have no business.
I mean, we don't need to look too far back to see what happened with Sonder, right? And we're not going to go into detail there, but it is essentially, right, like cash is the king. NOI is becoming more and more important. And that, I think, is going to be a main theme of 2026, right?
Yeah.
So to make this a bit more interesting, let's say, what would be my vision of the hotel navigating very nicely through this uncertainty, mm-hmm. and focus on profit in the area where the costs are growing exponentially and the revenues are stabilizing, right? Yeah. So prediction number 1. The hotels in 2026 that will thrive in that NOI-driven environment will be the one that can operate in a lean way without impacting their value proposition. Mm-hmm. So, and we're seeing it now happening more and more, clusterization, centralization of operations, Yep. The hotels from back in the day, we used to have a managing director, a GM, and a director of operations, director from front office. unless you are massive luxury hotel, that doesn't work anymore, right? The payroll costs are going through the roof, and it's just companies are looking at optimizing this way. So my first prediction is that the successful companies in 2026 are able to operate with a lean, frugal model in a scalable way as well. And what does it mean is, when we have a groups of hotels that opening new buildings, that means, expanding your business without really expanding your payroll. And we're not talking here about things like reducing your headcount, right? We are still people's business, and essentially, without people, we cannot thrive.
Sure.
But those people are harder to find,
Yep.
right? So once we've got them, we need to make sure that they are prepared, equipped well with knowledge, with technology, with process, to be able to actually, drive business towards profitability, rather than, as we previously did, towards revenue or RevPAR index, or TrevPAR, or even GOP per, right?
That makes sense. Quick question for you. If I was to segment the hotel industry in three sections, and these are very broad, so I get that for anyone watching or listening, but if I was to say, okay, we take the luxury end of the market, and then we take the budget end of the market, and then we take everybody in the middle in between, it's that middle band where price is becoming sensitive. As you said, the RevPAR is becoming an issue. Their costs are becoming a greater issue. Their costs are increasing more than their RevPAR can. In fact, it probably has plateaued, as you said, stabilized at the moment. So their margin is narrowing down. What do you agree with that? Do you feel that kind of middle group is the group that's going to have the biggest challenge, or do you think it's across the board? What are your thoughts?
I mean, wouldn't call it necessarily a challenge, the matter of adoption, right? And adaptation to the changing conditions. Like you said, luxury, we have guests that are willing to pay more for the experience, and I think here is all about meeting and exceeding expectations, right? Luxury has it's a high cost but also high revenue business, and increasing revenues in luxury probably is going to be a bit easier than in a budget kind of area. So I agree with that statement, and to some degree I agree with the budget statement, like a budget hotel, self-service hotel, and so on and so forth. I still think there is a level of optimization in terms of the people, process, guest experience, that can potentially maybe not save costs, because there is a level to what we say, but actually to optimize the operation.
Yeah, maybe from the other end of the equation.
Yeah. And we'll be talking here about optimizing your distribution channels, let's say, increasing your average length of stay, and this kind of factors that we still can kind of play with. The middle segment here is where I think, yes, the challenge kind of starts. And there's the most of traditional hotels, at least what I know, right? I don't travel necessarily.
Neither do I. I'm on the budget end.
Yes, exactly. Middle and budget. But that makes us know those brands and know those hotels, right?
Yeah.
And I think, although they might be the most affected, there is the most that can be done, right? Because that this is where that model kind of essentially works the best. Companies that have adopted right technologies, right process, and brought the right people have massively reduced the payroll cost and actually managed to increase the quality of service they provide. And that just extends everywhere in the hotel, and I think that is, just from operational perspective, such an opportunity, that is actually the second part of what I was talking about. We can actually very nicely move to it, is when we have the right people and right setup, we need technology and the process that will make those people thrive in the business. And I wanted to focus more on commercial part of it, because I am coming from commercial departments. I used to be commercial director, revenue manager. I worked in operations as well. But we've talked about revenue managers being total revenue managers, then the profit managers, then the total profit managers, right? And that transition of the role. But I feel that in a lot of cases, we haven't really transitioned people into that role, right? We just expect people to all of a sudden, our revenue managers, to look at acquisition cost per channel, right? To look at total revenue contribution per channel, and to look at other factors, increasing our length of stay, because the cleaning costs are expensive, that then getting those cleaning costs, takes 8 emails to different people to see a self cost, right?
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And we're talking about AI all the time, machine learning. This is a topic. Companies that adopted, latest technologies, they're using machine learning and deep learning for the demand forecasting, right? At various aspects, because they know that looking at this from perspective of the algorithm is much more accurate, faster, better than any person can do. And that relieves X amount of time for your revenue manager to start the journey with learning, where the costs are coming from, trying to navigate the distribution kind of complexities, what's the acquisition cost, how does marketing do the campaign, what's the customer lifetime value, starting to actually getting outside of that zone, which is not really possible if you're still using the legacy software. You need to spend half of your day, operating.
In a way, it's a bit like when you look at when you hear on the macroeconomics where countries talk about their GDP. What is their what is the production per person, so to speak, and I guess in a way what you're looking at doing is about looking and seeing, well, what areas can we invest into our hotel and into our staff that would increase the productivity per individual. And if it means investing in better technology, if it means investing in training, whilst there would be a cost associated to that, if making that investment, you are able to increase productivity by, say, 10%, and that increasing 10% not only covers the cost of making those investments, but also brings some additional revenue and therefore potentially additional profit. That's the way to be looking at that argument, rather than just being, okay, it's a technology cost or it's a training cost. It's actually, you are looking at trying to increase productivity.
I always say, okay, let's not invest in people, let's not invest in technology. What's going to happen? And that is, for me, the team members of tomorrow, people that just kind of stepping into hospitality as an industry, really want to make a career, right? We still have those that are willing to go. And I always laugh, we bring 18-year-old students right after university. We give them all that, expectation for space, all about customer service, people, interactions, the feeling, generating experiences. And then we put them through 2 weeks worth of training, so they learn one system. And this, we're talking about, a TikTok generation where everything is one click away, and you don't learn stuff because it's unnecessary. Everything is simple, one click, right? So we put them through that 2 weeks training to learn a PMS. And then we tell them, right, so now that you learned that amazing state-of-the-art technology, what you need to do is deliver customer service. And you're going to do that by scanning a passport on arrival. And that 18-year-old goes like, sorry, sir, what is passport? What is scanning, right? What is scanner? You can't buy scanners in the shop. And we go to like, and we kind of think, okay, but that's given. But it's not. It's given for us, our generation, but for the next generation that will operate that, it's not. And we need to think beyond that to say, are we going to be able to attract talent if we're operating on ancient process and technology? Let's look at people. What do they need, right? They need knowledge, they need skill, they need tools, and they need process. And how do we put into one kind of cohesive plan with the goal to really optimize our operating effectiveness and the profit margins? Because there is a limit to what we can grow in rate and occupancy, and there's a limit to what we can cut as costs. So we really need to be effective there. And the successful companies look at this perspective, and they understand that sometimes doing what's hard, it's going to bring us a benefit later down the line, right? It's not always what's easy. What's easy doesn't usually give you the biggest returns, right?
Nothing in life that's worth doing is easy.
Well, some of it is, but yeah, it's a general rule, right?
Indeed.
If it's easy, that the satisfaction is also.
Well, then everyone is doing it, so then it stops being a differentiator. So
right, exactly.
It's like that's the point. Okay, cool. Prediction number 2. What have you got for us?
Well, so that was kind of a prediction number 2, that
in the people,
that there's a people bit that is the most important one, and that those people needs to be supported by the right technology. It doesn't be new. It doesn't need to be. It needs to be the right technology for the right people, for the business, right? Stop talking about this whole buzzword, but really start looking at how we can, as a businesses, adapt it to a daily basis, right? 5 years ago, not even 5 years ago, 3 years ago, we would have a conversation about something like ChatGPT. Everybody would be like, oh, fab, it's going to go away. Fast forward today, what we're saying is, well, it's like you go to a conference and you say, well, still people search for holidays much more or significantly more than on ChatGPT, right? But that is going to change in months. So us saying, well, it's still not happening, is kind of not really getting ready for what's happening.
That's naive. It is happening, isn't it? You can see it. If people think it's not happening, then they need to just wake up. Otherwise, it's like the dinosaur looking up at the meteorite and wondering when it's going to hit and thinking, oh, it won't hit, and then the next thing they know, they're extinct. It's like it's here. You got to get on with it.
But it's again, right, staying a step ahead, and we all have that in plan. We all know it's the right thing to do. We all know what kind of needs to be done. But then there's that execution and putting it all together, and this is what I think, right? So prediction number 1 is people, right? Lean structure, less is more. Actually looking at what we've got and cherishing the talent we have and elevating that talent, making sure we retain them. People that come new to the business, that they are getting what they're expecting, and we actually giving them the opportunity to love our industry like we do, right? In the long run. And that's not only technology and process, but it's a feeling and induction and all that kind of stuff. But the big kind of factor of it is what's behind it, right? The technology to support that, people and business, and actually not being afraid of technology. People, companies that will thrive in 2026 are not afraid to make difficult decisions, right? But it's essentially, being bold, but having this vision of it needs to be together. People, technology, and process are going hand in hand.
That makes sense.
And a third
final prediction.
A final prediction. This is something that glues everything together.
Go on.
Is what we call at Beonx connected intelligence, right? Because again, we talk about NOI, right? Net operating profit. Now we used to talk about total RevPAR, GOP, and stuff like that. There's so many factors impacting that NOI that are currently, I still am to see the organization that can put it in a very nice way to actually have all the layers, But what connected intelligence means for me is being able to connect the dots for people rather than by people, right? An example, if we're expecting revenue manager to optimize distribution channels to sell through the let's say the distribution channel that generates us the highest contribution with the lowest cost, right? We understand how that channel cost is calculated, where it's coming from. Is it only the commission? Is there a marketing cost involved, right? How much money we spend on marketing? What's the cost of acquisition that we run in sales, right? Because spending 50,000 euros pursuing a big corporate account that will produce us 5,000 room nights for the next 5 years, it's definitely worth it, or the cost acquisition is actually really low, while spending 50,000 euros on a marketing campaign that will arguably give us an increment of €1 ADR in one specific month might not be the best.
Yeah.
Understanding all those
Yeah.
requires that connected intelligence. So actually finally removing the silos, getting companies to exchange and the platforms to exchange data with each other, right? In an open way. And you know, we've been very reluctant in technology in technology world to kind of share our data that customers give to us or exchange this, right? Like our vision here, and you know, we are connected with number of partners to make sure that our RMS actually gives you the intelligence that you need, right? That connected intelligence is when we as a business start making decisions that we know how they're going to impact kind of the whole spectrum, right? Not only how it's going to impact our ADR or our occupancy, but how's that going to impact our staffing levels for particular days, our housekeeping, our housekeeping payroll, our utilities, our CO2 impact. You know, we go all the way there to have that big picture of the hotel, and then finally we can, with that lean group of people, and by lean it can be 5, it can be 55.
Sure. Yeah. Depends on the operation. Yep.
It's based on the size of the company. But how do we connect it all together to make sure that they, you know, we have the right people? Prediction number one. So 26 people have the right team, right setup, scalable, lean, less is more, you know, and also high on retention, especially the developing talent and so on. They have the right technology, they have the right process behind it, which means that they don't need to spend 90% of your time doing day-to-day operations. It's actually the latest technology is doing it for them, and they can focus on delivering the customer service, generating the revenue, talking to clients, I don't know, cleaning the rooms instead of going between the rooms, you know, serving the next coffee instead of figuring out how to put the bill through, you know, offering the customer better experience by upselling versus spending hours of reporting it, and so on and so forth, right? And we're going to achieve it through connected intelligence on top of everything. So all those systems, they have the, you know, the output or the data that we gather is usable across the entire business for the entire business, right?
That makes a lot of sense.
Prediction is simple. The profit, the margin is the king, and we're going to talk about it more and more on every occasion, at every event, throughout every lens, being an investment, being service, being technology, being commercial strategy. So that is going to be for me number one topic 2026, and the biggest focus of the hotels. But how the hotels. So for me, if we look in like in 1 year time, we sit here and we take example of the company and say, right, that company did that with the people, and they equip them with that technology, and that's how they connected the dots. And this is where they are right now. I think
you'd be able to see that.
That's where we're going to be looking at, you know, who's at the top of the table versus who is kind of cruising along.
Who grasped the challenge and could see the change of direction and focused, developed a strategy and aligned, and who were those that just spoke about profit's important but didn't actually review or alter how they operate and keep doing things the old way.
It's exactly this, right? We need more profit, and it's like, but why our ADR is so low? It's like,
we need more profit, but we can't keep putting the revenue. We can't keep putting our prices up. Okay, well then you got to do something different. It's like like the definition of insanity, isn't it? Doing the same thing but expect a different result. It's like, hello.
Absolutely. And you know, it's again, it's a big challenge, right? When you look at budgets for every following year, you know, usually when you kind of prepare that budget, you look at this, like, we're never gonna achieve that, right? And then you need to become creative, and that, I think, is the biggest challenge, and that is coming down to our psychology. In order to change, we kind of need to look in the mirror and say, well, what we've done last year might not have been the best there is. And that is hard to agree with yourself, right? Maybe I can do better, because the first question comes, well, why didn't we think about it last year? But once you, in the organization, pass that line of looking in the past and more looking into the future, you can really focus on the change. Because, like, if you focus on results and it's like we focus on profit, you're not going to change, and that lack of change will make you operate the same way, and you're just going to follow the trend. You're just going to follow that 3% revenue increase and 15% profit decrease because of the cost. But if you focus on the change, you're very likely achieve results at the end of it, right?
And again, I guess part of it is because the GM will be focused on profit, because either their owners, their investors, whoever the stakeholders are, will be looking at that. But whether or not metrics in sales, in revenue, in marketing, or just combined overall commercial is focused on profit, if all the metrics are still focused on revenue, then you're still looking at the same old thing, even though you're asking for something else. And you just, there has to be that mind shift. Otherwise it just won't happen, because you've got to take people along and show them why you're shifting this, and then give them something that they can measure themselves against.
You have this one kind of rally point, right? Usually it would be in operation, it's customer experience, and then you measure it in a different ways. But it's a broad customer experience, and here, as you said, it's a broad profit. But I'm for me, when you think, okay, let's do it, and it usually happens overnight, right? Like, okay, next year we're gonna do this. And then all of the sudden, I'm looking always at let's say maybe aligned team members or people that are at the front line of it, right? In commercial. So let's say revenue managers, sales managers, marketing managers, and reservations managers. If you've been tasked to input reservation every day for the past 3 years, and then somebody comes in and like, as of tomorrow, we're a profit center and we're going to have to upsell, it's just not going to do anything, right? Or selling to a salesperson, that businesses that you've been like going with the grenade fire. Now I need you to find only profitable ones. And you're like, what does it even mean? What do you mean? So we need to bring that all together to make sure that everybody understands it, right? That sometimes the piece of business might look like it's the best for us, but when we start looking at it deeper, it actually is not, right? From the bottom line perspective, loan prosperity perspective, customer lifetime value perspective, sometimes we need to stop focusing on immediate easy win and look at this from perspective of, okay, we need to grow, and we need to grow sustainably for the years to come. And that's a journey. It's not a quick win. Sometimes quick wins are good, right? There's a Taylor Swift concert. Capitalize.
No one's going to throw away a quick win, but you should pretty much have identified those as the first things you're going to focus on, but then have a medium-term strategy. I think being able to look at ways in which your operation can be functioning a little leaner. I think people look at that. I question how they will balance that need to invest in the technology and the training that will empower their people to have greater productivity. But whoever grasps that, I think they will come out as the winners, because I believe that's an underutilized space that's been there for years in the hotel sector. So it'd be interesting to come back and revisit those. But thank you again for your time. Really appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here.
Great to talk with you. You take care. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the predictions discussion interesting. If you'd like to see any of our videos from our Summer AI series, here is a link to that playlist. And if you've missed any of the other prediction videos, here is a link to that playlist. And finally, can I genuinely just thank you all for watching or listening to our content? It really is appreciated, and we look forward to bringing you more in 2026. Thanks so much. Take care.